Big kid career. Beloved, you are my sister, you are my daughter, you are my face, you are me. I have found you again, you have come back to me. You are my beloved, you are mine, you are mine, you are mine. Crime on the run. That way. Holly was going over to the stable where he took my mom. 606 Freedom is that way. A whole train is going to come and we can get there. Don't need no buyout. Train, what's that, I asked? And I stopped. They stopped talking in front of me, then even Holly, but they whispered amongst themselves. And 606 watched the sky, not the high part, but the low part where it touched the trees. You can tell his mind was going from sweet home. The plan was a good one, but when it came time, I was big with Denver, so it was too late. It was too late. A little just enough to butter Holly's face, so Paul tells me, and make 60 laugh at last, but I got you out, baby. And boy, too, for the signal for the train came, you was the only ones ready. I couldn't get to find Holly or nobody. I was blown up. We waited in the corn, and I sent you to the lady in the corn. Ha ha! No notebook and no measuring string for my babies either. What I had to do to get there, I got there because of you. Passed right by those boys hanging on a tree because of you. I got your milk, and God did what he would, so I was going to get it to you. You remember that? That when I got that, I had milk enough for all. I had your milk, I had your smile, I would take care of you. There's this 19-year-old slave girl that is not old, much older than myself, waiting in the dark woods looking for her children who are far away. She is tired, scared maybe, and maybe even lost. Most of all, she is by herself. Inside her is another baby she has to think about. Behind her dogs, perhaps guns and certainly mossy teeth. She is not afraid at night because she is the color of it. Crime to the murder. When the 4 horsemen arrived and came, a school teacher, 1 nephew, 1 slave trader, and a sheriff, the house of Bluestone was quiet. They thought that they were too late. The 3 of them dismounted and stayed on the saddle. His rifle ready, his eyes trained from the house to the left to the right. Because likely or not, a fugitive would make a dash for it. Although sometimes you can never tell. You can find them folded up somewhere beneath the doorboards, beneath the chimney. Even then, care was taken. It was the quietest ones who had the pass. From a chimney, they would go along nicely for 2 or 3 seconds, called red-handed, so to speak. They would seem to recognize the futility of outsmarting the white man and his hopelessness of outturning the Eiffel, smiling and recognizing. Like a child caught dead with his hand in the jelly jar. When he had the rope to tie him, even then you could tell. The very nigga with his head hanging in a little dressy jar smile on his face with sun bore and commenced to do disbelievable things. Grabbed the rifle in his mouth, throw himself on top of it and holding it to keep his pace, trying to otherwise. You would end up killing what you had come back to bring alive. Unlike a snake or a bear, a dead nigga was not worth skin profit and not worth his dead weight in coin. School teacher, his nephew, moved to the left of his house. Himself and the sheriff was on the right. An old crazy nigga was standing in the wood pile with axe. You could tell he was crazy right off the bat because he was grunting to make cat-like noises. 12 yards was another one. A woman with a flower hat. She was crazy too, probably, because she too was standing with the fanning. Those are the cobwebs and the staring at the place. They were all staring at a shed. Then all 4 men went towards the shed. 2 boys bled in the sawdust and the dirt of a feet of a nigger woman, holding a blood-spotted child to her chest, 1 hand on the infant and the heels on the other. She did not look at them. She simply swung the baby towards the wall, missing and connecting, trying the second time. No word from the ticking time. The men's been staring at what they were staring at. The old nigger boy still knew and ran through the door and grabbed and snatched the baby from the mother's swing. Right off it was clear, school teacher, especially then, that there was nothing to claim. Now we enter the haunted where we meet the crawling baby. See, tell me, didn't you come back for me? Yeah, I was on the other side. You came back because of me? Yes, I came back because of you. Do you remember me? You never forgot me. You never forgot me. Your face is mine. Do you forgive me? Will you stay? You are safe here now. What about the men without skin? Out there, way off. Can they get in here? No, they tried that once, but I made sure they could never come back. One of them was in the house with me. He hurt me. They can't hurt us no more. Lipe says the ghost is a social figure, Toni Morrison work, a historical anchor rooms as well as interpreter stomach guard. This is to get the reader's attention. This discourse, history, subjectivity is the form of life. This is precisely the crucial hegemonic historical discourse and individual experience that Morrison underlies mechanisms and the exclusion of discriminatory attempts of recovering the and Clara Uru otherwise includes African Americans' perspectives and our own feelings. If we were still there, waiting, that must have meant nothing ever dies. See the look right into Denver's face. Nothing ever does, she says. Lipe also is like, I told you the French how English derived. I told you to also start with the question of the world. However, this is the prominent character of being in the present. This is the figure of the ghost. Something that's dead, never alive, never absent. You forgot to smile. I loved you. You hurt me. You came back to me and you left me. I waited for you. You are mine. You are mine. You are mine. Sita. That's when I stopped because I heard them call my name. And then I took a few steps to see what school teacher was doing. And he was standing over one of him with his hand in his back, licking his forefingers a couple of times with a few page slow. I was about to turn around and keep walking when I heard him say, no, that's not the way. I told you take our human characteristics on the left, her animals on the right, and don't forget to line them up. She says, mine, but what is really hers? Does any of this belong to her? Does the black square between her legs belong to her? Does the lump swollen from breast on her chest belong to her? As long as her body is illegal, none of this will ever belong to her. Me and Anthony advocate that the United States should legalize the sale of human organs, the bad master sale of the black gender slave organs. The resolution is a great starting point because it allows us to envision through the hauntology method that alleviates the ghosts that haunt us in civil societies, that possess us in the modernity, that possesses the black everything. By me and Anthony accepting the haunting, we provide a space that allows us to discuss the black gender option, make this society resistant. Not only that, but this is the relationship the state of Missouri has to the slaves in effective ways to start, because we can look at the history of this state and we can find that it's filled with the spirits of the past slaves, from Cecilia who killed her master to the rape in the famous Dred Scott case about one for a free slave who was never really free, to the fact that Missouri was the last to free a slave. That's why we find UMKC the best tournament this year to introduce We Love the Story. Middleton 2012. Mixed identical and fictional works with all the blurred between real lines and the constructed and the imaginary, because these are similar beginnings. These are narratives that we occupy today with more queer women and women of color, and those searches are needed. This is all of those in the personal narratives and narratives of those who are marginalized and those who are regaining, those in the process between Jonathan time periods obsessed with this. And just as I provoke a conversation with the community, I speak to those who are all queer bodies and all those. Our histories were deemed too dangerous to be imagined, too live, too complex, and this is an academic. We need to both be critical insightfulness and the place of perspectives and thoughts in which we bring beauty to this conversation. A focus on knowledge of those gains and living spaces to the experience, libertarian and revolutionary thinking begins with those and the essence more of those. The binary lines in which we see are what we must examine those that think critically anew. She says, what is hers? She will never really know what belongs to her. She will never find her. What is really hers? You have come back, but what have you come back to? Moan 2003. The value of the sound is necessary relationship to the possibility of language. Those given to the absence of the sound and speech is essential materialism that is rendered anchorism to the process of the immortal words of those in differentiation and distortion of the truth. This is the value of commodity tied precisely to those imperially thinking the commodity could speak and would have intrinsic value. If you were refused to a certain spirit, a certain value, given those on the outside, you with those contradictions of a value and shrinking commodity cut by those in the iteration of monotonic subordination. This is the way in which it breaks down the distinctions between intrinsic and what's given to a spirit manifest and the material experience of aspiration, such as those degraded a dehumanization mechanism and the material degradation and intervention of foreclosing diversity. I hear bound to exorcisms are black performance, and such a performance in a reevaluation, recountry of value is brought to objective and speak value and the spirit of what is matter. That movement comes all those in the arguments and problems, we begin to loathe the passion and the passion, the utter of this, because this is another violent form of subjugation, too terrible to pass on, too ongoing performance, a reappropriation and a deconstruction and reconstruction, the improv and the reevaluation of value. It's ongoing battle in the anti-original and performance and birth, which are all interruptions of black performance in the way in which they interact with the reproduction of blackness. It is important to emphasize on the object's resistances among all other things and all which is rupture. Everybody knew what she was called, but no one anywhere knew her name. Disremembered and unaccounted for, she cannot be lost because no one is looking for her. Her claim she is not claimed in a place where the long grass goes. The girl who waited to be loved and shamed erupts from the separate parts and is taught with the chewing laughter to all those who have swallowed her away. Beloved, you are mine, and your spirit still haunts me. I now said over for cross-examination. Can I start talking?
Yeah. So why do you open with Toni Morrison's Beloved?
Well, for several reasons. One, I find Toni Morrison's work extremely beautiful in the relation with myself as a black woman in society. And two, I also find Toni Morrison's work to be extremely beautiful in the context of fiction, vice versa, of narrative deployment to the academy. And I also find Toni Morrison to be simply self-liberating for myself as well as Anthony as two black people and academics.
So you say, me and Anthony advocate that the U.S. should legalize the sale of human organs through making the sale of black gendered slave organs legal. So how would this lead to your hauntology method, I guess?
Okay, so me and Anthony say that we actually embrace hauntology, right? Because these are the ways in which we remember things we were never meant to remember, right? So hauntology is, like, to me and Anthony, is a liberating method for our bodies in particular, and...
So, yeah. So that's what hauntology is. legalize the sale of the organs.
Well,
I guess
the
what-
U.S. is me and Anthony in the context of the app. And not only that, but the plan text is more so the beginning of the analysis of the question of what it looks like as far as Black bodies involved in the resolution. And what else did you want to say?
So,
Yeah, it's more like it's like an accepting of the haunting the resolution presents, right? So like the resolution presents, a certain, question about like the organ cells, but it forgets to ask the question about the gendered Black, slaves.
Is remembering the history and being haunted by the history, are those,
They're always haunted by this.
There is no way.
is there any way to separate them? Ever?
What do you mean, remembrance of the history and haunting of the history?
Like, because we can remember things and not be haunted by them every moment of every day.
Yeah, sure, but this particular being haunted, like hauntology, being haunted by the ghost
Yes,
by
but there can be a
it's
separation.
always.
There can be a separation, it's just that you are embracing said.
We say that being haunted, and particularly by the ghost of a beloved in particular, is extremely important, especially in the context of the way in which this activity is set up this year, right? Like that resolution links back to why we find Toni Morrison to be extremely productive form to introduce into this topic and this discussion.